Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. So today I'll be doing a tutorial on some standard regular drawstring backpacks. Nothing extra special. I just basically want to give you the structure of it, and if you get this down, you can certainly customize it to look as the way you want and all that good stuff. So let's just go over this here. So what you're seeing here is basically the measurements. So if you're wanting to make this for a toddler, then of course you would follow the toddler measurements. If you're wanting to make this for a child, an adolescent, a teen, you'll also follow those measurements. So pockets, buttons, or zippers, those are all optional. Interfacing, that's also optional. In this video, I will not be showing you how to do zipper interfacings, trim, buttons, or anything like that. But if you would like me to, I don't mind doing a tutorial for that. Just comment below. Let me know that you are interested in learning how to install those things, and I'd be happy to do a video for those. So what you'll need is you'll need fabric, of course. You'll need fabric scissors, thread scissors. You should never mix the two. You could use ribbon, paracord, or any heavy cording for the drawstring. You'll need a sewing machine, iron, thread, and pins. So I'm using this thread cutter. I'm using these fabric scissors here. I will be using this rotary cutter. Well, I won't be using these things because I pre-cut my fabric, but if I were going to cut this fabric out, I would be using these things. The paracord, well, this is just some regular cording that I got to do this one because this is a child size that I'm doing. And then of course you'll need the iron and the sewing machine. Mat, if you need that. So basically this is what the bag will look like minus the trim and vinyl. So this one here is actually 13 inches by 15 inches. We'll actually be making the smaller size, the one for a toddler, which is the 11 inches by 13 inches. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to cut your fabric out first. So we'll start with the exterior. Let me just clear this stuff out here. We'll start with the exterior fabric. And so we'll be cutting this 11 inches across by 13 inches in length. So 11 by 13. And you'll also do that for the lining here. 11 by 13. We'll need 2 pieces of each. And then for the casing, I've already pre-folded this and got it started, but you'll cut out 3 inches by 10 inches here, and I'll show you what I did to get this like this. And then for the casing, depending on what you're using, since I'm using that little thin cording, I did 2 by 2 for the casing here, but typically you would do 3 by 3. And then of course I got my pins here. So just give me one moment to clear up my mess here, and then I'll be right back and we'll jump into how to do this. Okay, so what I like to do first is I like to prep my pieces. So the first thing I do is I grab the 3 inch by 10 inch casing fabric and I fold that in half, and then I press it with the iron. So we would fold that in half and then just hit it with the iron. After I've pressed it in half this way, I open it up and then I fold down a hem of about 1/4 of an inch down, and then I do that for this opposite side as well, and I give that a press as well, and then I will fold it back on itself and then press it once more, and then I do that for each one of the 2 pieces. And then likewise I also do that for the tab. So I will fold it in half, fold it up against itself, and then fold it in half again. And of course press each time, so that way it lays good and flat for you. So now that's basically the hardest part, getting your pieces cut out and then pressing them so that way we're able to work with them. So again, we will be making a bag that's similar to this one here. And so if you are interested in learning how to make these bags, they make great Christmas gifts, please stay tuned and we'll get started now over here by the sewing machine. So for this part, you will need a front, an exterior piece of fabric, and then the interior piece of fabric. What we'll do is we're going to sandwich this here casing into the middle here. So in order to sandwich the casing in between the fabrics here, we'll lay this here, and you want to have the same amount of fabric on each side of the casing because we will be sewing this down and we don't want to sew on the casing or it won't flip well. So we will apply that to the top edge just the way you see here, downward, and again you just want to make sure that it's even on both sides like that. And then once you do that, you're going to put your lining fabric right on top of that. So let me just move this off to the side. I do apologize, guys. I'm doing this video on my own. Usually I have my daughter help me, but she's getting some rest. So what I do is I just grab the two fabrics and I just line them up together. Let me lift this up a bit. So I line them up together like this, corner to corner. And then I'll put a pin in this here to hold it just where it starts at. And please forgive my hands. I have eczema so bad and my hands are so dry right now and they hurt. So I do apologize. Let me scoot this back. Maybe you can get a better view of what I'm doing. Okay, so again, I'm just pinning this to the top here. Hopefully my hand isn't in the whole way, because I can't see. So I'm pinning it to the top. And I only do 3 pins. You don't need any more than 3 pins. And I prep both pieces before I actually start sewing. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll show you this when I'm done. So I have it all pinned up here, as you can see. 3 pins. Here's the lining here. This part is the exterior, and you want good side to good side when you're doing this. So you'll see that on the back side, it's the wrong side. And then when you look in the middle of the sandwich, it's the pretty side against the pretty side. So you want those pinned together. So when we turn it out, it's right. So there you go. And I'm just going to do the other one, and then I'll be right back with you and we'll sew these together. Okay, so I got the pieces pinned together, but before I actually sew the lining down, I like to take my fabric and I like to apply my tabs first, so that way they don't move. So what I'm doing here is I'm placing these about 1/2 inch from the bottom here. And you'll see that I've already did this one here. See, I just did a straight stitch to keep it in place. It's about 1/2 inch away from the bottom there. And so I'm going to do the same thing to this side here. So I'm just going to flip this around and sew it. All right. And you don't have to lock stitch it in because we're going to go over this again. So we just want to basically get it in there. And then once I have my tabs down, like you see there, I'm going to go ahead and sew across the top part of the lining that we sandwiched together. So make sure that you remove the pins as you go. Some people like to sew over them. I don't like to. And then for this, I just use the side of the presser foot for the guideline for me. So I'm not, it's no specific measurement. I just use this side here as my guide. So let's go ahead and get this sewed. Make sure you lock your stitch in. And we're just going to sew this down here. And remember to move the pins as you come to them because we don't want to sew over them. And that noise was just my iron shutting off. It thinks that I forgot about it. And then remember to lock the stitch in at the end also. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, and then so this is what it looks like here. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to move the sewing machine out of the way. And what I like to do is I like to press this afterwards. So I'm going to open this up for you. And this is what it should look like. So I want this drawstring thing, I want it facing the lining. So I'm going to just lift that up and then I'm going to press right on top of this here to make sure it's good and laid down. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so I'm just going to give this a good press before my iron shuts off, thinking I'm not using it. All right, and so this is what it'll look like here. So let's see. So we have the tabs here. We have them already installed to the bottom of the bag. So this will be the bottom of the back side of the bag. And then this is where our cording will go here. And then this is the lining. This will be tucked inside of the bag. And we're going to do the same thing to the other piece. And I want to do this with you, so I'm not going to pause you. So let me just get the other piece and pull this back up. All right. So I'm just going to sew the second piece here the same way I did the first. I'm going to remove the pin. Oh, I don't want that there. All right, so let's go ahead and get this started. Again, remember to lock that stitch in. And then also remove it just before you get to the end there. All right, and then again, I'm going to just press that open and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have this one pressed open, and as you can see, here's the outside of the bag. The casing here that'll hold the drawstring, and then the interior. Interior, the lining. So the reason I chose this print is because, of course, it's Crayola, and then this just looks like this crayon scribbled all over. So I like that print. So now I'm going to show you how to put these pieces together. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this one face up exactly the way it is. This is the exterior. This is the interior. So we're going to take our next piece here and we're going to flip this good side to good side. So on the top part, you want to see the wrong side of the fabric. And you're going to pin the two exterior pieces of the bag together all the way around. So I usually use three pins for each side. And then you're going to make sure that you pin the two lining pieces together also. So when I put this together, I always start with the lining first, because the lining, we're actually going to have to leave a space open. So just get your pieces together, make sure they're even. We don't want a lopsided bag. Let's just see here, just a moment. All right, so now that we got our bag good side to good side, we need to pin this. So I always start with and make sure your tabs are down so that way you don't mess those up. So I always start here. I'm going to put my first pin here. Hopefully my big old arms don't get in the way. So I'm going to put my first pin here. And I want to make sure these pieces are laying the same on the front and back. These folded pieces, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so this flap here and then this flap here. Make sure they're laying in the same direction. And then I will put a pin here. And then a pin here in the corner. And I'll do the same thing to the opposite side. So right here. Not sure if you saw that corner, but I put one here in the corner also. So there's a pin here, and there's a pin here, and there's a pin here. So I'm going to put a pin here on this side, and then one in the corner here also. So pin here, and then a pin here in this corner. And again, just make sure that your flap is laying down. Remember, I sewed that to the back piece of the exterior fabric. So there's the pin there. So I'm going to do that to the opposite side now. Also, I'm going to start here. Hopefully you can see. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to start here, making sure that these are laying the same way. Please don't poke yourself. I don't know how many times I poke myself doing this. All right. And then I'm going to do this part here. Let's back you up. Okay. Do this part here. And then I'm going to do this corner right here. If I can get my pin out, I should slip my pins out. All right. Now I'll do this to this side down here. And then to this side down here. Please don't skip the pinning, because you will be so upset with yourself if your fabric shifts. And it will shift. So please don't skip your pinning. Can't tell you what to do, and you of course got your own sewing techniques, but I would recommend pinning. So I'll put one in the middle, down here, just one. And then down here on this end, can you see? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to do like finger space in, 4 fingers here, a hand space I mean. And then also a hand space here before I do the next pin. And this just allows me to keep my bottom bag open, so that way I'm able to flip it when I'm done sewing. So, and I'm going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we are going to sew this bag together. Let me just bring this up closer to me. So what we're going to do is, with this bottom piece where we had our hand spaces, let's do it this way. We're going to start with this side here. We're going to sew all the way around until we come back to this side over here. And again, we're just using the side of the presser foot as our seam guide here, or stitch guide, sorry about that. So make sure you lock your stitch in here, or when you try to turn it around, it's going to come out. So let's get this down there. There you go. And I like to lock mine in a couple times. And then when we get here to this corner, we're going to make sure the needle is in the downward position. Turn this back toward us. And then put the presser foot down, and it should line up evenly there. The way it looks like there. Okay, so I'm just going to finish going around. And remember to remove the pins as we come to them. And again, I'm not telling you what to do, just trying to save your sewing machine. And you don't have to do this in a hurry. I would rather you take your time, so that way you can stretch out any kinks, so that way you have a nicely constructed bag here. Now I normally serge these sides, but not everyone has a serger. So if you have a serger but you're not sure how to use it, just let me know, and I can do another video making the bag using the serger. Alright, I'm just going to raise the speed a little bit. All right, so here we're coming down to the flap here. So make sure that's laying down as you stitch over that. And then just remove the pin. And likewise, we're going to do the same thing we did at the other corner. So we're going to come down as close as we can, kind of guessing the width of our presser foot here. And then we're going to put that down and continue to sew. Remember to raise the presser foot and then turn your work and then lower it back down and keep going. I'm going to do this all the way around until we get back to that end. So we're almost to the end now. And remember, this pin here is our stopping point. So I'm just going to keep my finger here so that I know where I was. And I'm just going to lock that stitch in. All right, go ahead and cut the thread. And then remove it from the machine. Let me just get this out of my way. All right, so now I'm going to show you what we did. Okay, so what we did was we started here. We started here. Let me tilt this down just a bit. Okay. So we started here and we sewed all the way down till we got to the exterior of the bag, turned our work, and we continued across all the way across the bottom here of the upper bag, the outer bag, to this corner, all the way back around till we finished here. Now, this is our lining. This is our lining. We left this piece here open so that way we could turn our work. But before we do that, in order to make sure that our corners turn right properly, we're going to clip these corners here. Like that, just so that it turns right. And we're going to do that to all four corners. Be sure not to cut into your thread or you'll be upset with yourself. And then right here, that's why I said it was important to make sure that these flaps folded together. We're just going to snip here on each side so that this turns properly as well. Definitely make sure you don't cut into your thread here, because like I said, you will be very upset with yourself. I'm trying not to cut into it or I'll be upset myself. I couldn't see that part and trying to look through the camera was not right. Okay, so let's go ahead and flip this. So I'm opening it here. I'm just going to use whatever fingers that will fit in here, and I have some chunky hands, so not very many. All right, and so I'm just going to grab this part of the bag, which is the lining, and I'm going to flip this out. So this is where we get to see the pretty side of the bag now. No need to iron this. because it's a drawstring bag and it's just going to be wrinkled up. So we don't have to press this. Now I'm just looking for those flaps that we sewed here. It helps to turn the corners out for us. All right, so there's one. That's what it'll look like. And then we come to the opposite side, and here is two right there. So now we can stick our hand or our scissors or whatever. I'll use this, just the cap to my scissors, just to go down here and, well, I actually don't need to do that because this will do it for me. So push the, oh, we have to sew this down first. So let's just get this right, so that way we can sew it in place. And then I'll push it inside. Okay, so what we're going to do here, let me scoot my mat. I don't want to iron on it. Okay, so what we're going to do to this part here is we're going to see how this part is still open, because this is the part that we had to leave open in order to sew it. Flip it out. We're going to hit this with the iron. So I'll just leave this on the table and I'll iron it, which my iron shut off. Alright, so I'm just going to press it, and then I'll take it back to the sewing machine, and I'm going to do a very thin stitch to close this up. So I'm going to just do that really quick. Okay, so I went ahead and sewed up the bottom with just a regular straight stitch, so that way it's nice and sewed up. And then for any threads that are sticking out, just remove them or snip them if they need it. All right, and then the next thing to do is to push this lining inside this part. So let's go ahead and do that. And then just push out the corners while you have your fingers on the inside. All right. And then once you have that done, the last thing to do is just to add the cording. So here is the back part of the bag here. And then here is the front part of the bag. Right there. And then of course the inside of the bag. So what I like to do before I add the string is I like to top stitch here. That's optional, and I only like to do that because to me it makes it lay better. So I'm going to go around here with the top stitch using the presser foot as the seam guide, and I will be back once I get that done and show you what I did. Okay, I was going to skip this part, but I think it's important so that way you know what I'm lining up with the presser foot. So I just lined the presser foot up with this here edge, and I pulled this down to make sure that it lays. So I'm pulling this one this way and this one that way to make sure that it's laying properly. And you don't have to worry about locking the stitch in here because you'll go over it anyway when you get all the way back around. So just take your time and keep stretching that so that way it doesn't bunch up on either side. Because the thing I hate the most is having to seam rip things and do it again. So I try to do it right the first time. It doesn't always happen that way, but I try. And then when you get to these sides right here, they're going to be pretty bulky right here where the seams join. Just take your time over that spot so that way you don't break your needle. Sorry about that, just a moment. And I just go a bit slower over this part. And then once I get over it, I just keep going. And then we're almost back around to the beginning where we started. All right, so we started here and now we'll finish here. All right. All right, so all we did was we put a top stitch around the bag, and it gives it that finished look so that it doesn't shift and move like that, so it stays down. All right, so the last thing to do is to thread the bag, basically thread the bag, and I will show you how to do that here in a moment. Okay, so now all we have left to do is to add the paracord to the bag, and I have this little thin one because it's for a kid, and so I got this from, I believe I got this from Hobby Lobby. It's the paracord number 95. Was only $2.99, so not very expensive, and you get 50 feet of it. So this is the one I'm using today. And how I install that is I use a safety pin. So I'm just going to get a safety pin here, and we'll start putting the paracord into the bag. Okay, so this is a good angle. All right, so I just got a small little safety pin, and I'm going to put it at the end of the paracord here. Just make sure you put it in a spot where it's not going to make the paracord shred. I already heat sealed the end, so it shouldn't shred, but just in case. So I'm going to start from the left working around, from the right working to the left, back to the right. Okay. So we're just basically making a half circle with this here. And just keep going until you get all the way to the left of the bag here. And then I'm going to flip the bag and work again from right to left. So basically, like I said, a half circle. All right, coming to the end here. And then what I like to do is just grab the cord from this part here and just pull it until the opposite side is even, like this, where I have them two, both of them in my hand. And then once I have the two, I just pull it from the opposite side like that until it looks like this. And then I bring this down. I leave this one hooked here, and I pull it through here. Oh, thought I had it inside. I did not. And then I grab this one here, make them even, remove the safety pin, and I like this to just be like that. So I'm just going to tie here. I don't like mine really long for a toddler. And I just leave this attached until I do the other side, so that way I know I have the strings even. So you just knot that really well. I like to take the needle nose pliers and pull that, just to make sure that I have it extremely tight. Because it's hard to get it extremely tight with your fingers. So I just put it in the pliers and pull to make sure that the knot does not come out. And that's that one. And then I do the same thing to the other side, and I have a bad habit of losing my things once I put them down. Oh, right here. So I'm going to do the other one the same way. So now you see the way the bag is laying. There's a string on this side, but there's none on this side. So in order to get one on this side, we have to start on this side. All right. So again, just thread this quickly. And then we're going to work from this side because there's no string here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're working from right to left. Oh, did it come open? Oh no, good. And then we'll do right to left again once we flip it. Okay, so we worked right to left on this side. Now I'm going to flip it over back to the front, and I'm going to work right to left again. Sorry about that. And the camera was wobbling. And I'll make sure I have all the measurements in the description box below. And again, if you would like to add pockets, zippers, trims, buttons, any of those things, just comment below and I'll do another tutorial. Honestly, the tutorial took a lot longer than it actually does to make the bag, because it doesn't take this long to make the bag. It only takes about 15 minutes to make the bag. But, you know, having to stop and explain, so it makes it seem like it takes longer, but it truly does not. And then likewise, we'll do the same thing. We'll leave this safety pin on. But actually, this one needs to go through here, so maybe I could do it without the, no, I'll have to switch the safety pin. Just give me 1 second. You always want the back one to go through the loop, not the front one, because then it'll look weird. So the back string, see, here's the top string and here's the bottom string. So the bottom string will always go through the flap here. And there's several ways to do this flap. I'm showing you the easiest way. Normally I would sew the string, the paracord, to the flap, but for time's sake and the easiness of this, I'm just gonna do it this way. And then for this one, remember I said we would leave that other one attached just to make sure that we have the same length remaining. So I basically just look at this one here and make sure that it's even when I pull the knot. And then I'll just use the needle nose pliers again to get a better grip of this. Sometimes you have to do it individually to get that piece that's loose pulled tight. And then do them together. And then you will trim this here. What did I do with my lighter? Oh, let me get that back out. Okay, so we will trim this here, about right here, so that way we leave some so it doesn't unravel. And then we'll heat seal it.